And welcome everybody to the Seiya Cosmocast. I'm your host Ramses, and per usual, we got here Benjas,
Hello!
and we got here Jackie.
Meowdy, how's it going, you guys?
It's the sun is trying to kill. They're trying to kill me at the moment.
Oh, you and me both, my friend.
Uh, but yeah, okay, so let's start off. Let's start off right off the bat with a little bit of housekeeping because a little bit of this involves the preamble involves why we didn't record the last week. Obviously, of course, I live in California, and we got hit, quote unquote, by a hurricane. Thankfully, the eye of it and the worst part of it did not hit my area. Everything was kind of off the ocean, thankfully, and the stuff, and since we were all well prepared and everything, there was no flooding, there was no down trees, no nothing. So that's a good news. But I said, in case, because you don't know what natural disasters can happen. In case something were to happen, we had to take this. We would take a day off. We would have to take an extra week off. I didn't want to do it, but I didn't want in the middle of recording just be flunked to the next city over. So that's why this episode recording is kind of late, and I'm sorry. And also too, I'm pretty sure too people are wondering hey, I'm like the YouTube people, and why don't you have episode 34 yet? Episode 34 will be up right after the show, and I'll put as a thank you for waiting. I'm gonna put up this episode as well. And yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that we need to take note. But like I said, that's why this episode is a week later than usual. And then so sorry, but again, natural disasters. It's unfortunately nothing I could have. The other times I could have just easily said let's just record, but this one was a natural disaster, and I just I didn't want to risk it. Also, one last thing before we start. This would have been the major topic for last week, but now that we're kind of about a week or two out, Time Odyssey issue 1 is available in English. So if you haven't picked that up, go to your local comic book store and pick that up right now. So that's pretty much all the preamble and a little bit of the stuff that I wanted to discuss with off the bat. So why don't we get on to the okay. I'm just gonna lay out my cards right now. This is gonna be a shorter show than usual because there's not really much going on in the world of Saint Seiya, so we're just gonna just talk a little what little we can find, and then just talk about the episode, and then just head out, find somewhere cool to go to rest afterwards. So first things first. Oh boy, this is a doozy. Okay, so Bandai announced a couple weeks back that that figure that we were ogling at the V1 manga Saint Seiya myth cloth figure, that Seiya in his first manga V1 manga. Okay, hold on. The V1 manga color, not manga accurate, myth cloth of Seiya was we saw pictures of it a couple of weeks back. And about 2 weeks ago, or around the week before, before we were supposed to record, we got news as to how we're gonna have to buy this, and it's an event exclusive.
Of course it had to be.
Right now, I'm taking off my glasses and just oh my god. And the problem is, it's I'm pretty sure we already talked about this in great length on the show, but it's so crazy that that Bandai is not putting in they're not gonna put in this much effort to putting in the things to make it available for a wider distribution. However, I think the demand for it, and they're trying to look at it from demand from Japan only, and they're oh, this is not going to sell that well in other parts of the world, so screw it. We'll just put it out on cold and see what happens. And
That's Go on, finish.
Mm. No, because there have been times with with SH Figure Arts where like they did it like I wouldn't like because like I'm looking at the figure and it's like there's some like obviously the cloth is new pieces. The head is obviously it must have been they must have redone the head. The body is still the same buck. So I'm pretty sure they looked at how much effort they took them to do that compared to like a completely new mold or a completely new design from the ground up, and they saw like, well, it's kind of a half-assed thing, so like we'll just put it out as an exclusive instead. Because I know whenever they do when they did this with Figure Arts, whenever they do an event exclusive, it's always stuff that's already been released. There are many times where I was like, okay, I would buy this figure, but I'm not gonna buy it at I'm not gonna buy it at an event because I'm not in Japan. I'm looking at you, Kamen Rider Joker. Jesus Christ. But Benjas, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's very, very, very frustrating. And actually, I did not know that this. I did not notice back when we were sharing the information. I don't even remember if they stated it was going to be a Tamashii Nations exclusive back when they originally like showed the pictures for it. But as I started to see that people that are more how to put it that are that divulge more information regarding the figures themselves started to tell that this was going to be a Tamashii Nation exclusive. I was like, oh, god damn it! Why? It's already a pain in the butt having to deal with Tamashii Nations exclusive if you really want some of those figures. Now add the factor that they, as you probably said, they were probably thinking about Japan only, just because what the hell Bandai is thinking? I legitimately do not know. It's not as if the manga is being in publication in most countries around the world. It's not as if even the latest iteration of the latest version of the manga is in publication right now in several countries. It's like,
So you say it's more popular outside of Japan than in Japan right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the figures, they sell well. Obviously, they're not gonna sell well, I know that with figures it's tricky. Like, I know that even series that are extremely popular, like One Piece or Dragon Ball, I'm talking about like in the moment. You know, like the things that are popular in the moment. I know that not even all those figures like sell out. I know that there has to be like kind of a balance, but I think that Bandai takes it to a whole degree of you've got to be bullshitting me, right?
Yeah, because I'm looking at this from like their perspective, where it's like they look at how much effort they put to make the figure, and if it's just like if it's just a repaint, then yeah, we'll just relegate it to an exclusive. Or if like they're just gonna like make very few pieces if they're gonna make like very few like alterations, then yeah, they're gonna ship that. They're gonna put that out. But what they underestimate is that a lot of times, especially with the outside market, is that a lot of people like you and me, Benkas, and maybe Jackie, this is stuff we like. Like this is like I love like deep cuts with my characters. I love when they go to like just the weirdest places with it. And very rarely do I see Bandai ever do that. I think the only time I remember them doing this was again SH Figure Arts and in Kamen Rider. That one of the early Kamen Rider figures. No, the very first Kamen Rider. Not okay. Kamen Rider 1. They had several versions of him, and that's the only time where it's like, okay, cool, because like there's one where it looks more accurate to how he looks later in the series, and then there's one that he looks more accurate to how he looked at the beginning of the series, and it's like, and just a weird and just a recolorization, but that's the only time I can remember them putting that much effort into it. But other than that, everything else is they kind of just relegated all of that to like exclusives, and it's I don't know anymore. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
Just to say, I'm very frustrated because I know that probably the way that I'm gonna be able to get this. Have they said if I haven't seen this? Like, are they actually just gonna sell it in Japan, or will they also have it at events in other countries?
I would not know. But from what I do recall, like and worst part is like that's kind of a difficult thing because like usually when it comes to event stuff, especially when it comes to like the this particular event, the like Tamashii Nations the Tamashii Nation 2000 like that event, it's always that stuff stays like in Japan. Very rarely do I ever see that stuff go out of like from the United to like other parts of the world. But if there is demand, like if you like if there's enough of an uproar, maybe just maybe there might be a possibility. So it's like, hey,
Oh dear.
just like message Bandai, send tweets out, yeah, send tweets out. Why am I giving this? Why am I giving that guy the time of day? But no, yeah, like I said, just send that, just like make your voice heard, like that you want this, or like if you, and because this is like I said, like this is a fantastic figure. I wouldn't mind buying it. And like I said, like I don't usually buy I don't usually buy myth clocks because they're way out of my price range. But a lot of stuff is starting to get more and more out of my price range anyway. So it's like, look, if I'm gonna buy one, I might as well make that the one. So that's my take on it. And I think we were discussing this too, and Jackie can back this up. A lot of this stuff ends up in the aftermarket, like at Mandarake, and you can get it for like dirt cheap, like just embarrassingly low prices. And it's like and they said like it's used, but it's like they barely even touched it. So
Yeah, getting secondhand stuff from Japan is like usually the condition is like they have like maybe like a fingerprint on it and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that I don't really have too much to say on this really because I don't really collect super a lot of myth cloths and definitely not something I'll be picking up. But I know firsthand experience, how frustrating it can be with the whole, as I like to call it, the gaijin block,
Mm-hmm.
the gaijin gatekeep, with all this, and it just strikes me surprising because yeah, I'm used to with importing stuff, everything's Japan only. But if there's one thing, I'm like, well, at least the figures, Tamashi Nation is making an effort. That means they sell it through official partners and stuff. So it's like making that exclusive just sounds really strange to me. I don't know what they're trying to do with it, but we all know everything that ends up in the secondhand market in Japan because eventually people want to buy some other figure or they graduate from the series or you name it. So I've seen stuff literally sometimes appear within days of, after being purchased at an exclusive whatever event. With a figure, I would imagine realistically will take more. But, don't despair. I know if you're really, hardcore, like you just like gotta have it. There probably are ways. There might be, there are people that actually go to these events and will try to make the purchase for you. That said, remember that even if you through those avenues, that all of these exclusive events in Japan, they are war zones. Supplies are limited, so who knows? If there may not be that. I don't know how many changes are to the figures. I'm not really familiar with it, but the one thing that might be making it exclusive more than anything is that it's a limited, like a small number of these figures, and that would be the one thing that would drive up the price in the secondhand market.
Yeah, that's a likely possibility. So, but usually when it comes to Tamashi Nation, like once it's released, like they'll make more than enough. And I've seen, like I said, I've seen those same event stuff. I've seen stuff from like way older stuff from like the OCE color stuff from like the Frey First Myth Cloth stuff.
Yeah,
I see those on Manaraki for like 4,000 yen, and I'm like, that is actually tempting. That's actually tempting, to be honest. It's like
it really
Poke
depends
the chin.
also on the fan demand too, because even if it's limited and all that, if for whatever reason people just don't take that much interest in the figure, it's gonna drop in price.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because but even then, it's like, for example, like again, going with that Kamen Rider Joker, like he was an exclusive, but I could still find him for actually like a little under 3,000 yen, and like I keep on seeing it, but I'm like, I never have money when I get it. I'm like,
I know, like you find it and it's like, oh, it's sold out.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I like Double. It's one of my favorite series, and I really like the Joker design. Shotaro's part just all black, and I'm like, oh, that looks so good. but I have all the other molds from that. I have practically like every other mold except that one. So it's like I need that to like because like for my OCD. Alrighty. Any other thoughts before we move on to our next topic?
Just to say that I'm gonna have to scar Chiba once that thing releases.
Alrighty then, let's go on to our next topic, which is the Pegasus Fantasy 2. I know you two are going to be going to this event. So, Mekas, they released some new information concerning like what the event's gonna like the signings and stuff like that, right?
Yes, they have. The organizers of the event, Anime Music Lab, through a YouTube video, released information regarding how the meet and greet with the guest stars from Japan, Nobuo Yamada and Yumi Matsuzawa, are going to be held. The time frame for that, and basically what you can and you cannot do for this meet and greet. Basically, it's going to be an event where, well, first of all, they said that it's going to begin at 2 p.m. So anybody that has a Divine Zone ticket must be there by 2 p.m. And they emphasize that the latest that they would allow people to try to get into the event due to the preparations that the guests need to take in order to participate on the concert would be 2:30 at the most.
Mm.
So
Oh,
in
you're
any
gonna have
case,
to.
yeah, so anybody that is going to be attending that has a Divine Zone, it needs to be there by 2 o'clock p.m. So they need to enter through the gate G2 of the arena, and the staff there will lead them by groups and will have them have a small greet with the guests, and they will be allowed to be taking a picture with them. However, they emphasize that you cannot take a picture with your cell phone and you cannot take your own camera to take a picture. The organizers of the event will be taking pictures with professional camera equipment, and those pictures will be uploaded onto a drive sometime after the following Monday after the concert. So you cannot take your own pictures. You cannot give the guests any items. You cannot give them anything to sign or any gifts. So it's a very, how to put it. It's going to be very, because of the time frame. It's going to be probably something very fast, like a small.
Very strict.
Yeah.
I'm
Very strict.
surprised.
I'm also I'm
Very.
also very just because they did this at WonderCon with the actors from the movie. I'm pretty sure too, like like no selfies, no things like that. And like social distancing, you gotta maintain a couple, you gotta maintain distance between you and the actors, or you and in this case the performers and stuff like that as well.
Yes, most likely it will be like that, and I completely understand. Like, especially here, like people tend to like boundaries are. Latin American people when it comes to boundaries, they're not there can be some liberties. Some people don't consider them too much, but it might be a little bit strict. But I completely understand where they're coming from. So it's a shame, but at the same time, I completely understand it. Especially more for the guests because since they're Japanese, they're probably more used to this type of
Yeah.
the being handled like that. So it's I think it's also for their benefit, and in my opinion, so long as everything goes well, then that's more than enough.
Alrighty then. Jackie, do you have any thoughts? Did you see this news at all? Because I know you're going.
Yeah, although I'm actually not gonna be in the Divine Zone, but I'll probably. I'm in the Gold Zone, so um, I believe they still mentioned gold. Both that Divine Zone and Gold Zone actually can enter I guess the whole vicinity at 3 o'clock. So for me, I'm definitely gonna be there around 3 o'clock just to pick up my swag bag, and I'll go more into detail later. But I think they mentioned before that I'm gonna be handing out some goodie bags, and just so you can come if you find me. I'm gonna think of a fun way to do this, but I'll just say it like this: look for a girl with a Camu Ita bag.
Well, well, for those of you who can attend and want to like help out, there is a link that you can go to my coffee and you can support these two guys who are going to be going to the concert because I want to get these guys as much as they can the stuff that they need for to promote it, and also to just a couple of things extra where it's like, hey, have some fun. Don't stress out too much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're going, definitely we'd love to meet you. So, and we just want to try to spread the word about our podcast and just have fun. So, hopefully we'll have some fun pictures to share with you guys. Myself, I'm gonna try. Definitely, if I see any cosplayers, I'll be sharing pictures of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, once I know I got everything ready on my end here, I'll go into more details about exactly what I'm doing. So if anyone listening right now, you know, like how to find me and all that.
Yeah, and and of course, like anything like involving like your participation with the show like that, I will definitely post it on our socials as well because you are awesome. Uh,
Yep. Uh,
any other things you guys want to bring up before we go on to our next subject? Because this is pretty much like bug standard stuff for the most part.
yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Because
Go ahead. You do it. You go.
I,
You go.
I was just gonna add that they did say that in the following day, so I hope that it's sometime this week or sometime soon, the beginning of the next one. They were gonna give more details regarding the merchandise that you were gonna be able to get in the concert for the people that intend to purchase stuff. So hopefully they release that information soon so that we can divulge it as well.
all right, like if that when that pops up, we will definitely put that on our docket for like the next episode. All right.
Yeah.
Jackie, you're about to say something?
Oh, the one thing we haven't mentioned is that last week. Was it last week even? Where has the time gone? But we had a new. Oh yeah, that's right. Because we couldn't do the record. Champion Red came out. The
Oh,
October issue.
Thank you for the transition. Thank you for the transition. Why don't you lead us off with this discussion then?
Okay. Well, we got it was a celebration, I think, for what was it, the 21st anniversary
Oh, yeah.
of the magazine in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest Saint Seiya elephant in the room is that the cover it is Seiya.
Maybe.
I mean, this was actually being previewed before, maybe. And the back, it's that same image that you've seen that it says it has the Temple of Artemis, the Temple of Apollo, and Zeus in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's been wondering, is this a hint? Is this not a hit? Is it a big trolling? Well, we still don't know because absolutely nothing was said about the image in the magazine.
The masterful gambit there, Master Kuromada. Just masterful gambit, sir. 10 out of 10.
So we're all like,
But because you want? Is there anything else you? I know you're excited to look more information. So like, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I was hoping that because I was expecting that when the magazine came out, maybe could be like an announcement or something for when the last half of Next Dimension, which is set to conclude this particular part of the story that Kurumada is telling, like would return. Most likely it will be by the end of the year, if not worst case scenario, early next year. Like that's more on the editorial part of the magazine, from what I've been able to tell. So I'm just kind of like on with expectation to see when they actually release the information. Sadly, they just it's still an astounding magazine for all intents and purposes, and I've already purchased my copy. I'm just waiting for it to arrive from Japan. My dealer. I already have like a seller. It's not a dealer. It's a seller from eBay that knows that I like this stuff. So whenever he gets the magazines with the Seiya covers, he messages me like, "Hey, are you interested?" I'm like, "God damn it, yes, I am."
yeah, they do that to you.
So yeah,
I know that feeling.
so I'm waiting for the magazine to arrive. I saw that he already shipped it, but it's gonna take a while because he ships it through the normal through international
EMS.
standard shipping. Yeah, so it takes a while to arrive.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's still like astounding for everything that it contains. Well, it didn't give us like any new information regarding what I think most people were like, because the cover, like, it made people talk. Like that simple fucking image, like you have no idea. Even since the last episode, that when we talked
It
about
broke
it first,
Seiya Twitter, put it that way.
yeah. It completely like it brought flames on people, because here's the thing: like Kurumada does troll. He has trolled in the past,
Uh-huh.
so it's not beyond him to do something like that. But huge but. Here's the thing: he's also somebody that, as I've stated previously before, he does not put things on his story, or he does not do things that do not have a purpose. I do not think that he would have very blatantly given us an image which basically fucking showcases the temples of one god that we already know that he kind of has on the back of his mind for a long time, and the effing Zeus without intentions to do something with it. And I just hope that he, like, from what we saw when he appeared in the red carpet event for the movie, he looks to be in good health and in good condition. So hopefully it remains like that. And if I have to wait another 20 years, I'll do it so long as I get that story. Nothing concrete has been given, but the excitement for it and the idea that Kurumada will probably go on to tell that story, I think it's more than likely. It's very extremely probable that he will do that. And the magazine itself contains a lot of stuff about Seiya. Like it has everything about every manga spin-off that has been released, because it has special chapters from episode G Requiem. It has a new chapter from Lost Canvas. It has one of the Cynthia Show Memories chapters. It has the regular next chapter of Darkwing, the regular next chapter of Re-Rise of Poseidon. Like it's completely filled with Seiya. So it's a number of the magazine that's completely dedicated to this franchise, and I love it.
I do believe some numbers did come out about the sales, and it actually did it did sell really well for its demographic. I wouldn't say it's like the number one. It was not. I wouldn't say it's the number one book in Japan, but it did that particular issue sold really well apparently, and it's a huge part thanks to Saint Seiya. Like a lot of people still care about the franchise and still want more about it, and still want to see, and still are intrigued by all the spin-offs and stuff like that, like Re-Rise of Poseidon, Cynthia Show, episode G, even Menkai Darken, that poor series.
Small note on that, since we're talking about the sales, from what it is, so the special issue that was sold exclusively by gamers, it was such high demand that they're actually going to run another print of that. If you want to still get the, you get the bonus postcard with the same image, and if you want the acrylic plate with Julian. So if you feel like you missed out, had some thoughts about it, you still got another chance to get it.
I'm actually tempted because you said the magic words of a metallic plate of Julian Solo. I'm like,
not metallic,
acrylic stand, but it's like, oh, I like him. He's so.
Oh, it's a really nice. I like that image myself.
Not just that, I like the character. I like the character a lot. That's why I'm like really happy. I'm really happy for Re-Rise of Poseidon. It's just like I get to see more of Julian. Like, he's so dreamy.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a couple of. I mean, he's probably gonna come around, but
yeah, he will. He has to.
He has to, but yeah, I think the Re-Rise Poseidon mangas has to be doing really well, because I can't say I've heard anything negative. It's just, I think the Mr. Tuna Kansuda. I always think about that name. Yeah, I mean, he's doing a good job with telling the story.
Yeah, and like we read the first couple of chapters, and it's really good. It's a really good spin-off in my opinion. Like, like it's like characters that we don't have much like it's characters that we want to know more of, and we get to be a little bit more attached to those characters. So
yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I swear to God, I'm working on the translation for the next chapter, so I will have them, I promise.
Are you okay, Benjas?
Yes.
Take a breath, deep breath. It's not a race, but we understand too. It's like it's just been hectic for everybody. But is there any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I should definitely. Was also interested that they did the same thing as the last the champion, the magazine that came out maybe, what was it, like 2-3 months ago, that was all, they also had all 5 mangas chapters.
Yeah, I think
for each one. I think they also released simultaneously digitally through Bookwalker Global. Okay. Yeah, so I actually got it right when it came out, so that was pretty fun. I haven't looked. I don't know if it's already a translation out for Re-Rise of Poseidon, but just looking at the images, I think the chapter was pretty funny in a way too.
I do like. I will say this. I do like that. There's at least some sort of consistency with Re-Rise of Poseidon. I thought like, oh my god, we gotta wait like 4 or 5 months. No, I mean we're getting at least a chapter like once every 2-3 months, so that's pretty good. That's a pretty good, especially for like a monthly anthology series like this. It's good to like to have these things like spaced out. So yeah, that's why it's like don't worry about it. Don't worry about it because like it's not gonna go anywhere. It's gonna take its sweet time.
Yeah.
And it's like, but
So
it's not like all of a sudden it's not like all of a sudden like this chapter comes out and then we gotta wait like another year. I'm like, oh god damn.
I mean, I
Oh,
prefer something every two. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You speak.
sorry, I was just gonna say. I actually remembered. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but well, I did. There is a bit of news regarding Re-Rise of Poseidon. The first volume, the first tankobon, is actually going to be released. I don't remember the day exactly, but they already announced that the release
I
date for
think
it.
it's
So
somewhere in. It's in October.
That sounds
yeah, I
about
think
right.
it's in October.
That sounds
Yeah.
about right.
So it's like the first. I suppose the first four, or I would think that maybe the first four chapters would make the first tankobon.
Yeah.
So that's good. Like it's how to put it, because obviously it's news, but considering the fact that it's only going to be one volume and we have to wait quite a while for the next one, and it's only going to be in Japan for now, it's just worth mentioning it. But well, at least it's gonna it's gonna be good to see if maybe Suna Kansuda does like a special cover for it or something of the sort.
Yeah, I wanted to maybe this last chapter might make it in there because it was a little bit shorter than the others. So, and the way it ended, it kind of what I'm saying. It kind of like it ended right when it introduced the what's the next battle gonna be. So it kind of seems like the perfect and for the first Takubon, carrying on to the next one.
To leave it on the cliffhanger for the next volume. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Well, not just that too. It's like I'm pretty sure like for like like the first issue, the first couple of issues, the first two issues that I read, I believe they were like 20 pages long, 20ish pages. So it's like a little bit more.
Mhm.
So it's like, but so so let's just round it off like that. Like all 5 books would like round it out to like 100 or so pages. So like yeah, that's like around a usual Takabon length right there. So it's like yeah, that's actually a good length. That's why I like figured yeah, October sounds about right when you mention it. So it's like yeah, that sounds perfect that they would do that. And they would actually put out like like something like they would put out like a teaser, not just for like the next issue of Champion Red, but also for the next issue of the Takabon for the Takabon collectors. Alrighty then. With that said, that's all for the news. Sorry for sounding so weird, but I'm just gonna like it's like just yeah. But like I said, this is gonna be a fairly shorter episode, so yeah. Why don't we get started with our episode discussion here? Episodes 81. Wait, am I right?
82, 83, 84, 85.
85. Yeah, 82 to 85. I'm gonna write this down somewhere. Anyways, Mekas, why don't you lead us off? I think if you want, like, if you feel comfortable, if you want to like talk like if you want to group all three of these episodes or group these episodes in any way, shape, or form, just say so beforehand.
I think that contrary to the previous ones, I mean, there's an argument to be made with the last two episodes, but I think that it deserves like each episode to have like its own description, to go episode by episode, because of the way that it is structured and because of how like the events play out. Though, if you would allow me, I think that before beginning with going in depth with these episodes, do you mind if I share some trivia regarding the Asgard arc so far, with information about the characters and the episodes we've already seen?
The floor is yours, my man. Just like you know us.
Go for it.
Alrighty. Okay, just to give a little bit of information regarding the Asgard arc itself. We've mentioned it previously, especially when we talked about the second film, but the Asgard arc and the second movie, which both take place in Asgard and dwell on Norse mythology, were both written and they were crafted by Takao Koyama, who was the lead writer of the original anime up until this point. The idea stemmed from one thing, and the rise for needing to do the filler episodes to allow the manga to have room to breathe and have more parts to animate. That's when it was created. The thing is that it was something that we didn't mention before, is that in general, the staff for the anime changed after just as the Asgard arc began and just as the Sanctuary arc ended.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, the general director for the anime was Koso Morishita, who later, I think I know he already retired, but he came to be the director of Toei Animation itself
Oh,
later down the line. Yeah, he was the chief. Pardon me, I don't remember the exact title, his proper position, but he became basically the head of Toei Animation later. And the lead writer was, as I mentioned, Takao Koyama. But starting on episode 74, which is the beginning of the Asgard arc, the general director title passed on to Kazuhito Kikuchi, and the lead writer became Yoshiyuki Suga. Several factors went into this decision, and part of the reason, this is another period of trivia, part of the reason why Takao Kojima had to leave the position of lead writer for Saint Seiya is because the Toei, the staff of Toei at the time, asked him for his help with the Dragon Ball anime.
that sounds about
So
right.
he was basically,
Yeah. What?
so yeah,
Go on.
sorry, I was just gonna say. So he was basically moved from Saint Seiya to Dragon Ball, and even though he was still involved in a few episodes afterwards, he was no longer the general director. That's why the position had to change.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so
Go on.
yeah, go on.
I was gonna say,
Sorry,
like,
Fred.
it sounds about right because, like, I'm pretty sure, like, they saw, like, not only say they saw the writing in the wall, but I'm pretty sure they're like, look, we like say like Dragon Ball needs all the help we need, so like, unfortunately, we gotta start sliding a few of you people, few of the staff to Dragon Ball. Unfortunately,
Yeah, it sounds right. Especially because I'm not sure if I got this information right, but wasn't like the first part of the anime of Dragon Ball, what the original Dragon Ball, kind of like not doing too hot on numbers before? Like it kind of struggled in the beginning, and they had to move a lot of staff in order to help with it
yeah,
as it went along, and it increased the numbers. I think so.
yeah, that's what ended up
I
happening.
suppose that it makes sense.
That's what ended up happening. I think, like, at first they had like little confidence in the product. But as the series went on, they're like, "Oh wow, this is starting to get bigger. This is starting to get bigger than we thought it was." And then they're like, "Okay, we got to like put more people on staff for this show."
That makes sense.
And also, too,
So yeah,
I'll make mention there were rumors too, like the reason why the second season of the CGI show was that what was taking so long was because some of that staff some of the staff that was working on that show were working on Dragon Ball superheroes. So again, history repeats itself.
of course. Yeah, in a way, like it's like poetry; it rhymes. Ironically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why he had to move from that position. However, before he left, he basically Takao Kojima was basically the one that did like the not the entirety of it, but he basically made like the draft of what it would end up becoming the entirety of the both the Asgard movie as well as the Asgard arc itself. That came from it said that it was in a meeting in a hotel, so I suppose that it was more than a meeting, was more like a work trip that lasted for 3 days and 3 nights apparently,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the all the ideas for Asgard and the second film came into place. And then he spent about a week redefining the details afterwards, and that's where they came to the decision of using Norwegian mythology in order to avoid using any Greek mythology that Kurumada might be willing or might be wanting to use down the line, and not repeat the mistakes they already had made.
Oh yeah.
anyways, after that, basically that all that batch of information, it's been referred to as a Kosei memo.
Mm.
So basically, Koyama left that memo, which became like all the information regarding the characters and the how the story would progress itself. And there are interesting details about what like some of the initial concept art that did not end up making the final product. But the funny thing about this is that we know about this Kosei memo because that information, especially the character descriptions, the original ones, were released on the DVD box set of the Cygnus DVD box set released on September 26, 2003. So that's where we could see like the data sheets for the characters in their initial conception. But some of that information had already appeared in magazines beforehand, especially on the monthly Bandai Making Journal number 5, which released on April 25th, 1988, and on the magazine Animedia number 5, released on May 1st, 1988. So some of that information had already because it was being worked on through those magazines. They released like those initial concepts for the people that were interested in the anime, so that they could know what to expect with the following season. But some of that ended up changing quite drastically later down the line. For example, with Thor, he was originally gonna have 100% blind faith on Asgard, believing that Asgard should rule the world.
Oh,
Like he was
wow.
gonna be he was gonna be 100% villain, and in apparently in those initial notes. It is stated, because we already kind of implied when we watched the episodes that he had like a thing for Hilda, right?
Yes.
If not necessarily love, he kind of like had an admiration or something like deep for her. And in the original like conception, it was specifically stated, is more specifically on the monthly Bandai making journal, that he was indeed in love with her.
Oh.
Interesting.
So I suppose that what was left was more of a what's it called, when like a leftover of that initial idea rather than the idea itself. And also, interestingly, apparently he was just gonna have like a single hammer weapon called Mjolnir,
Of course.
as in referring to Thor's weaponry. I think that his axes are called Mjolnir, if I'm not
Yes, they
mistaken,
are.
in the anime itself. But what I found funny was it was actually gonna be a hammer, more in line with the namesake that he held.
Yeah. Which would have made a lot more sense. That's why I was like, why would you call him a Thor if he has these two huge axes? But oh well.
Another interesting detail. Well, this is more in the actual series, but I don't remember if we mentioned it when we saw his episodes. The god robe that Thor has is basically like a repurposed and reused cloth that that had already been made. Well, not cloth, god robe. The one that actually Hyoga uses in the second movie, the one belonging to the warrior Midgard.
Mm-hmm.
That armor was recolored and retextualized a little bit, added with some details on the helmet, and that transformed into Thor's god robe in the end.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I find it interesting to think, because Thor, even though he obviously is very much like following Hilda's orders, as he fights with Seiya, he starts to have doubts. So he clearly has an ethical backbone to him. But it's interesting to see that initially he was going to be more blind villain originally.
I think I understand why they went that direction, because I think like you're like you already got kind of I want to say there's like a couple of blind villains, like a couple of like straight up villains. So I think they wanted to give them a little bit more of like a sympathetic background for those characters.
I think it works, especially with Thor, because he already has like little going on for him. So at the very least, you can say that you can remember his background. So
yeah. So
outside that and his stupidly gigantic height.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, moving on to another interesting data, this time regarding Fenrir. Well, he basically, like, his initial conception is basically what ended up happening on screen. There is nothing that diverges from that too much. But it is interesting because apparently Takao Koyama specifically mentions that the inspiration for his background does come from the historical event of Amala and Kamala, the girls from India that were allegedly raised by wolves.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently he took inspiration from that, and something interesting that is mentioned in the monthly Bandai Making Journal is they have a line there that makes you kind of question what they meant with it, because they said that he was capable of abandoning his companions when needed, or if needed, rise.
Wait,
so
what?
It's interesting because exactly, because it's left like, what the hell do they mean by that? Are they talking that he would abandon the other god warriors? Because I believe he would definitely do that. He doesn't care for people, but it's more confusing because precisely because he doesn't like people. Are they talking about his wolves? Was he going to be more heartless initially?
I would assume that's actually a difficult question, because because like I'm pretty sure, again we wouldn't know how the process was during production, but I'm pretty sure what must have happened was I'm pretty sure they did, that was written there, but they kind of realized I don't think a person that owns a pet would not abandon his pets. I'm pretty sure that got that, so I'm pretty sure that got changed when they realized that that's kind of that would be a bad move for character wise.
Yeah, and I mean, wolves are not the noblest of animals when it comes to leaving some of their kin behind, but they are like there's a reason why they move in groups. So yeah, it doesn't make sense for the pack of wolves that did not only spare him but also rescued him for him to just be to betray them in that regard. So it's confusing, but it's interesting to see like those ideas floating around on the initial character concept.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this one refers to Sith, and I'm just gonna say what this information is because we've already seen Sith, but I'm not gonna say the rest of it until later down the line. You probably already know why, but in order to avoid telling anything more than I need to, as of the point where we are right now, Sith was originally intended to die, or was implied, not intended, was implied that he would probably die on his first appearance. Like when he appeared to Seiya and Shun, he probably would have been defeated at the hands of them, but this ended up being changed in the end.
That makes perfect sense because like they like what like if the introduction to the character would have been him taking out Aldebaran, and then he gets killed immediately afterwards. Like it would make him look way too weak. And I'm pretty sure like like the god. So it's like it makes you kind of confused. It's like why are you having so much trouble having with these god warriors if they took out one of these guys like easily. So I was like, I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that they started looking things logically. It's like maybe we should maybe if we're gonna introduce them, maybe we gotta like make him a bigger threat than just these guys that they're gonna plow through in a couple of episodes.
Yeah. So that's an interesting little fact about him,
And I'm pretty sure too. I'm pretty sure too that that's why a certain thing happens with that character. But when we get to that character,
exactly. Yeah. We'll get to that eventually. Well, and now concerning something that we're about to finish and about to jump into, but it's also need to say I want to begin with this, and I have one last piece of trivia after that, but that comes for when we go to the next episode and the next God Warrior is introduced. So regarding Hagen, an interesting fact about him in his character description, it says that he's of mixed race. And I do, you can actually see that he's probably the one character whose design in terms of appearance is different physiognomically from the other one. So this makes sense, but they never actually go into detail about that. Like the information doesn't go more in depth on that, and on the series it's never even touched upon. So it's interesting that they noted that. But here's the thing, and this is the interesting part regarding the actual character we get to see, because he was originally described as a nihilist and a man of few words. I think that they went a little on the other opposite direction with that one.
Yeah. So much yes, because that guy will not. Okay.
He has a mouth.
Yes, he does. He does. But okay.
Anyway,
but like I said,
go
on, please. Finish up.
Sorry, I was gonna say, and apparently he only seeks to fight powerful enemies. To achieve that, he doesn't care to ally himself with Hilda or even Athena. So originally he was gonna be more of a gray character. He was more of like I just want to fight people, and I'll fight anybody, and anybody. I don't care for allegiance.
And you can see a little bit of that, and you can see a little bit of that. You can see a little bit of that in his backstory, where it's like he's just this guy in constant training. Like he's just a dude. Like just training all the time. He's ignoring what's her face? Help me out here, one lady.
Freya,
thank you. I was like, let's touch on an F. Yeah, so you can tell, like she's like, well, with Freya, like the stuff with Freya and stuff like that, like the relationship. Like as time goes on, it's like it starts being more friendly, and then as time goes on, it becomes a little bit more like he's being a little bit more distant because he's training a lot more. So you can tell that like a lot of that stuff still stayed. Like a lot of those concepts of him being like this morally gray character that just wants to fight is still there, but they have to still but they still have to go through but they realize he was like now that we have these characters and we kind of have to like drum up the fact that like these characters, while they're doing these evil things, they have some some morality to them, and that way it gives a little bit more depth. I think that's another reason why I think they changed Thor, is that and I think I think okay. Let me rephrase this. I think another reason why they did all these changes with these characters is they saw they saw everything that was done with the Kuromada and all the stuff like with the Gold Saints, where some of them weren't necessarily evil. Some of them were just testing them. So I'm pretty sure what they try to do with these God Warriors is they realized that they kind of wrote these guys as just one-off villains, and instead they kind of realized, oh no, they should be have a little bit more depth to them. So a lot of these changes seem now a little bit more apparent when you realize, oh, they from the very beginning they were designed to have sympathy. Like we were supposed to sympathize with these characters from the very beginning. So getting rid of a lot of those colder elements of these characters, no pun intended, was not going to do them any favors.
Yeah, most likely because it does sound like they were conceived to be much more villainous in the beginning. I suppose it depends who you ask. Like, I maybe some of these elements. I think it would have been more interesting to see Hagen in his initial conception than the way that we actually see him. Even though I do like his fight, but probably for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, like having them just be like that, and unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, it depends on the way that you want to look at it, I suppose. The Asgard arc, the reason why the God Warriors are so memorable is because they have very distinctive and tragic backgrounds to them. So I think that by giving them that, they ended up becoming part of the consciousness of the Watchers. So it's not necessarily a good or bad thing, but it was definitely a success in that regard.
And it also varies. It also does a lot of things where, for example, it gives us very polarizing opinions on a lot of aspects. So I'm very sure too, like that giving him a little bit more of this depth was kind of like more giving all this depth definitely it was very polarizing at the end of the day.
Yeah. And just one final detail to add to his background. Apparently, in the magazine Animedia, there it was actually stated that he's indeed in love, has a love interest for Freya. I mean, it's more than obvious in the final protocol as
Yeah.
well, but like here, it's stated like without a doubt. So
Yeah, no shit. Like all the signs were there, and all the signs were there, but uh, like I said, like I have thoughts, some good, some bad. Is there anything else that we should be aware of, or should we,
uh,
or should we move on
for
to
not for now, I can jump into the description of episode 82, and then we can move on from that.
go for it?
Okay, so episode 82 begins where episode 81 left off, which is basically the confrontation between Hagen and Hyoga, now having moved location into what seems to be an active volcano. An underground dungeon, I'll call it, where
Yeah.
there is a lot of magma. And here it's where the fight continues between Hagen and Hyoga. However, Hyoga starts to have a lot of difficulty with fighting Hagen, considering the adversity of not only the powers of Hagen himself, but the environment in which he's in, something that would definitely affect him considering his background. The fight continues with Hyoga struggling to keep up with Hagen and Hagen basically dominating the fight until Freya arrives at the scene and basically encourages Hyoga. And well, no, first he tries to stop Hagen. She tries to reason with him. She tries to make him see the error of what's going on. She tries to make him understand that Hilda is not herself. She's not her usual selves, and that there's something going on more sinister behind her actions, and that he should try to help them. She tries to convince him to join them so that they can free Hilda from this evil entity that's transformed her in a way. Hagen, unfortunately, being a very, very stubborn and faithful warrior, that refuses to believe any of the exclamations from Freya, and is convinced that they have brainwashed her in the end, to the point where he even actively attacks her, considering her a traitor to Asgard. Hyoga intervenes, obviously, saving Freya, and they have their final confrontation where Hyoga finally is able to succeed in defeating Hagen. He dies, and if we show a very very tragic end to his life as Freya weeps his passing, and Hyoga contemplates alongside Kiki, who also was accompanying Freya, just how pointless this all seems to be. And the episode ends.
Oh, okay. As I like complaints aside, I thought this was a really I thought this was a this is one of the better fights in my opinion. I think like they did a really good job escalating everything and making sure that you cared about everybody involved with this fight. Could it have been done a lot better? Yeah, but considering like what we do, what we know now with the series, and how much of this was changed. And I wonder like at what stage this got changed. Like if it got changed like at the very beginning, or like sometime like midway through, and they realized that they had to do this. But but now that we know a little bit about the history about like what these characters were supposed to be, I do like I can tell that like this was going to be a little bit more tragic on in that regard. But it is a tragic story, and it's a really well made fight in my opinion. And so I didn't feel like, unlike the other episodes, I didn't like, unlike the like, as a matter of fact, I'm just gonna lay it out right now. I thought these episodes were actually really good compared to like the last few episodes that we saw. So I'll give them that. Like I think they I think they finally got lit their something on their butts, and they started realizing what they can do. And I think a part of it is that emotional like drive from like everybody involved, from Freya to Hyoga to Fen no, to Fen not Fenrir, to Hagen. All three of those characters are like emotionally invested in this fight in different aspects, and because of that, you have a little bit more. You have it resonates a little bit more it resonates more with the viewer. So in my opinion, this was a very strong episode. Um, yeah. Jackie, do you have any thoughts?
Jackie?
Hello. Well,
Jackie, are you there?
we have some technical difficulties here, but do you have any thoughts, Benjas, then?
Okay. Well, yeah. Actually, I agree with you in that so far. I think probably the fight with Hagen has been the most enjoyable, at least to me. I think that all of the fights have their strong points, but with Fenrir's, they're very far and few in between. And the fact that how to put it, it lasted so long that drags it out to be unnecessarily tedious. And even though it wasn't done to the same degree, I think that the fight with Thor also lasted probably a bit too much. However, Hagen's fight, I think because it was so far it's been the shortest, and it was more direct and more to the point, it was more enjoyable and easier to digest in that regard because it didn't like drag out unnecessarily. Though it does have like its fair share bit of stupidity, such as when, oh god, like the part where Hyoga does the Aurora execution,
Oh gosh.
and just a pile of lava that just
There's
appears on
a
the
lot of
ground.
stupidity in this episode.
Yeah. That that is like you don't notice that when you're a child, but when you're rewatching it as an adult, you grow. Really? like an attack. Let's assume that Hyoga's not at his full power and he does not achieve absolute zero. But don't you think that he would probably be able to defeat just a normal pile of lava that was not even an attack from Hagen? Like really? But and it has some silliness to it, but at the very least, because it's so direct and it's more like to the point, and I think the fact that we see that Hagen does care for Freya, and it's a shame that he ended up becoming just like a perfect soldier in the sense of like choosing duty above reason, ended up becoming his undoing, and that ends up becoming a tragedy more on itself, even though he doesn't have a tragic background per se, or at least none that what we can actually see, because we see him training as a child, but we never see him being like, we don't see like a sad background to him, you know, like he always seems happy training to protect both Freya and Hilda. So it's a shame that it was this sense of duty that ended up costing him his life due to his own stubbornness and his own stupidity in that regard. And you can clearly see like how actually Freya did not want this to happen, and it just ended up happening, and how Hyoga empathizes with her at the end. I think that was very, very well done. Like it was very, very well executed. Like I actually felt for all these characters when this happened, albeit some of the dumbassery that happened throughout the fight itself. But I think Jackie would probably wants to go more into detail about that. So please, Jackie.
Yeah, and okay, making sure you guys can hear me okay, because we had a technical difficulty and my microphone decided to be special, probably because it knew I was going to start ranting.
We can hear
And
you.
okay, great. And it's probably because I'm so particularly, like I tend to favor obviously Hyoga and all that. I almost tend to completely forget the tragedy that goes on in the episode, because my gosh, this Hyoga. Did you battle Cameo in 12 temples? Do you remember Absolute Zero? My gosh, why are you getting roasted? I mean, yes, I'm roasting you, but you should not be becoming Rose Swan in this episode. This is just. It takes him more than half the episode to finally remember Aurora execution, and he goes like, boom! He actually manages to finally freeze something, and finally it takes for Freya to get hurt, so to speak, for him finally be like, okay, I gotta do my job. Oh, it is really frustrating.
I definitely see where that frustration comes from,
Mhm.
especially because in the, how to put it, like not just with Hyoga, like this has been a problem so far with every single one of the Bronze Saints.
Yes.
It's like dudes, do you really need to have a flashback to remember all the things that you learned in the previous fights? Like, do you require the magical flashback gods in order to actually
That is
remember
my
that you can
main
actually fight?
issue with Asgard. It just feels like everything that these guys should have learned and we remember from this fight that technically happened only a couple of days before, right?
Yeah, pretty
as
much.
far as I can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
it's like
most,
what did
a
it
month
just fly out
at
the
most.
window? At most, it flew out the window.
Yeah, well, not
Because they're making like a lot of dumb mistakes in a way. It's like, or you should be stronger than this. What happened?
well, not just that too. It's just plot convenience. It's like we gotta build up the tension for a little bit longer, and it's like, no, you don't, you don't. I guess that's why a little bit more, because like it felt like kind of a weird spot where we had time, we actually had a like break time between this fight, so I can see how this thing would play out in real like how someone would be watching the series would react to the series, would be reacting to it at the time when they really can't remember anything. But but I will agree, yeah, it's like there's something much later with another character that I'm like, dude, you should have done this from the very. You should like, yeah. You mentioned this, but I think there's a more egregious example of this in the next fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, but see, I agree with you. I mean, you're right, because of course, these days we kind of binge watch everything, so it happens faster. Obviously, there's been a lot more time between whenever you off a cameo and in this episode when it originally aired. Myself, I had some time in between when I watched 12 Temples, and then I got to see this. But I'll tell you, at 13 years old, I still got the same feeling that I was extremely disappointed in Hyoga. Like, what happened?
It's like, what are you doing, man? You're better than this.
Yeah. And in Hagen's mind, they're just still fighting over Freya. Like, finally, like, oh, Hyuga, you're a wicked man. Why you steal my girlfriend?
What? Yeah, and and he kept that to the very end. I'm like, dear God, man, get your head like somewhere else. Like, he's doing his mission. He doesn't care.
This man has brainwashed your mind. You should be on your sister's. Oh, I just like I said, it's maybe because I'm so partial to Hyuga, but it's like this just looks like such a bad fight, fighting for a girl. But and even Hyuga at one point admits that he actually walked into a Hagen's trap. So I'm like, Hyuga, you're making dumb mistake. Hyuga, I'm sorry, your master's probably just. What is it? Twisted ink is engraved right now. Your dumbass mistakes. I mean,
yeah, he's like Camus and Crystal Saint are screaming somewhere. You idiot! What are you doing? What did our training teach you for? What did all this training that we did to amount to you walking into this trap for an extremely obvious trap? Oh God damn it!
Beep beep. Sound good? I don't know my. I was gonna say. Hyuga, your master can then not die for you just so you go F up all the way again.
Yeah, I was gonna say that what did they put something that they like, and that's the thing I realized with Hyuga. It's like it feels like he I it seems like I feel like in the situation with Shun that we get to, that Benjas always bring up. It's like it always seems like they try to put some sort of like love thing for Hyuga. Because like in the first movie, it's the Eris movie. Like it was the Tinder date from hell.
It's because he's the only one that doesn't have a sort of even a semi-love interest within the classic series.
That is true.
That's why.
I didn't realize that till right now. Like, yeah, he's the one that like
I don't really count Freya either, though, because it's like obviously. I don't know. Actually, sometimes I wonder about her. But no, really. At least from Hyuga, no. He doesn't see her like that at all.
No, he's a man. Like he's always been a man on a mission. That's how I always interpreted it. So it's like so for me, a lot of that stuff of like a lot of that stuff like shipping him with someone else and stuff like that. It's never been like I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say I'm not for it, but I'm not completely against it either.
Yeah.
Is there any other thoughts here? Because I feel like we're talking kind of in circles at this point.
Yeah, just one. Two actually.
Go for it.
For these particular episodes, but it has to do with the infamous Latin American dub.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Okay, the first one is more of an annoying thing that I never noticed until I didn't even notice it in the previous episodes until this one. Because the name of the character of Hilda's sister is Freya. The way that they would pronounce it in Japanese is Freya, correct?
Yes. Oh so God.
Want to take a guess at how they name her in Spanish?
Forgot because I've seen this, but it's like let me guess. It's something to the extent of like. Freja?
Flair.
That's right, Flair!
They keep calling her Señorita Flair.
That's right!
That's right! Oh, yeah. I do remember that. Oh, God.
That is completely... And I think we had another incident like this in the last batch of episodes where like no one in translations was like, okay, this is clearly from like from Norse mythology. Does anybody want to like double check on it? Nah, just put it out.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh God, some of the stupid trends. Like I think that ironically, Asgard is probably the part that has like the most outrageous like dubbing mistakes. And it's not the only one, but it has some of the most stupid ones done in the entire series. It's just baffling.
I'm under the assumption that. Like I think I said this the last time that these guys must have been like dubbing this thing like as they got it, and they had no real time to like really look back at what they were translating and say, wait a minute, this guy this character is based on Norse mythology. Why are we calling her a different name when we should be using the mythological name? But then again, too, I do it's one of the things where it's like I don't want to like accuse anything, but it's like was there no one on staff in the doing this to like bring up any kind of concern? But again, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know I wouldn't know what's going on with that translation. Like we love it to death, but there's just these weird things.
Yeah, and one of them, okay, it has its fair share of stupidity, but it also gave us some of the most memorable lines in dubbing history, in my opinion, at the very least for Latin Spanish, such as the following that happens in this episode.
Uh-oh.
And I think that you probably know this one. I'm going to say it in Spanish first, and then I'll say what it means in English.
Okay.
When Hagen and Hyoga are about to have their final confrontation, and Hagen goes, "Hyoga, este será tu fin. Hagen, has impedido lo que ella se proponía y ese es un pecado tan imperdonable que jamás te lo perdonaré. Cállate, maldita urraca."
What?
Okay, so Hagen goes, "Hyoga, this will be your end. Hagen, that's an unforgivable sin that I shall never forgive from you. Shut up, you damn magpie."
I think because I'm watching it dubbed in English, and I think I think I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to because if the translation I'm listening in English is and what I just heard right now is correct, I think they're trying to really hammer down a fact. Like they're trying to really hammer down this is a really important fight and they really hate each other because in the English dub I think that they it's pretty much the same thing where it's like now you'll die and he says I think Kyoga says something to the extent like fuck off or something like that in this dub.
I forgot.
He just says something completely to the point. I wouldn't say rude, but to the point. And so I'm pretty sure they're trying to make a point of they're this frustrated at each other. So just why would you shut up, you magpie?
Okay, to give a little clarification, in Mexico there is it's not used so much anymore, but I do remember it being used when I was very young. You would call a magpie a person. It was usually particularly used against women, but it's used against a person that talks too much.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he was given more in the context of stop talking, shut up, or with that intent of insulting. So that's the reason why they did that in the dub. But like out of context, it's so fucking funny.
All I gotta say is this all of dubs have some weird dubisms. Like I said, because again like last episode they had this they had what's his face Fenrir. He had Fenrir be like it's like something to the extent of you look like a chicken with his egg on his ass, and I'm like what what. What are you talking? Okay, anyways, Again, no dub is perfect. No dub is perfect, but it's the weirdness that brings us all together here. Anyways, Jack, do you have any final thoughts?
The one thing I definitely like this episode about this, at least it gave a little nod to my favorite character, but I thought it was interesting because I've always wondered in the back of my mind, so can the saints talk to the dead? Because we see this every now and then. I don't know if they're remembering. I'd say that when they pass away, like when, for example, Shiryu was remembering Shura, but it was more like they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with this happens a couple of times throughout Asgard, but in this case it seemed like Kami was talking to Hyoga directly.
But it's a Jedi apparition thing where it's like they're talking to him from the great beyond, just telling him like, God damn, what did anything that we taught you, did that mean anything?
Yeah. It's something like that because Actually, that also goes on in the manga. Like, for example, the scene where, like, in the fight with the between Ayoria and Seiya, where he is wearing the Sagittarius cloth, and Ayoria has the apparition of Aiolos. It's implied that he genuinely heard his dead brother talk, like the
I
soul
think
of Aiolos
I
talking
think
to him.
I think we brought that up because I felt like at one point he was just talking to himself, and I'm like, dude.
Yeah, because like Seiya did not notice what the hell was going on, but like Ayolia clearly was like talking to Aiolos, and not only him, I think also that when, because this also happens in the manga, when Shiryu is remembering Shura. He does talk to his soul as well, so they can, like, it's kind of like one of those things that's kind of weird. It's never really touched upon or elaborated upon, but apparently, yeah, it's something that actually can happen in universe.
All right.
Yeah, or at least it seems like it doesn't seem like it's like so much the saint, that's alive, but it's like, I guess, the dead soul that actually reaches out to somebody that's important to them. And I mean, of course, there's other signs that appear, like even I think later on the Poseidon manga, that let me thinking about that too. So,
I'm,
but
I,
I liked it. I liked it because it was actually, again, got to hear cameo, and it's not that much that we get to see.
and not just that, it was like I think out of all, I think so far out of these fights, it didn't I didn't feel like I didn't feel like it overstated welcome. If like there was a lot of talking, yeah, because I think they were trying to pad out time, but they did. I felt like it was a more faster paced fight than all the other fights
Yeah.
we had so far.
Definitely.
I think it's just, for me, it felt repetitive that, okay, he was getting burned, he's getting roasted, but it was actually faster paced. But, oh, I mean, then again, this was more like 2.5 episodes or something, which is not bad,
Yeah.
because compared to Sirius, it really dragged on.
That thing.
Yeah, because it was basically just 2 episodes, because that little part because the fight technically began when Shiri was still fighting Fenrir. That's how fucking long that fight was, that they actually had to begin another one during the middle of that fight. So okay. Anyways, yeah, it's like 2.5 episodes, but it's technically more like just two.
Yeah.
Anyway, good job, Hyoga. You finally remembered like Aurora execution. Daddy Cammy's proud of you.
Yes.
Next episode.
Alrighty, jumping on to episode 83. Following the events of this one, the Saints continue to advance. In this case, Kiki stays with Freya because due to the effects of the previous fight, something I forgot to mention, because Hagen did attack Freya, even though Hyoga protected her, she probably was hurt
Yeah.
in the fight. So Kiki stays with her as she's unconscious, and he's taking care of her. Then we jump onto Hilda, which basically is like, "Hey, another one died, really? Like, you fucking loser!" And yeah,
I mean, they're
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's what it is. And I like. Was this the thing? Was this the thing where she killed a bird
Yes.
for no reason? It's like another one died. Okay, cool. I mean,
Yeah. Poor bird. Jeez.
anyways, keep going.
well, that's what evil people do, man. They kill birds. Anyways, she's talking about this with Siegfried, a god warrior that seems to be her second in command, as she constantly talks to him, and he's the one giving her reports about the situation going on. Afterwards, and after her getting angry, she still believes that she's going to be winning in the end, and we move on to Seiya, who is having difficulties advancing after the damage he received from his fight with Thor. Even falling off a cliff, which leads him to remember the events that led up to the creation of their new clots in the anime. And as he then has the flashback of the remaining living gold saints giving their blood to repair their clots, which had been basically killed by the intensity of the fight in the 12 temples previously. They give their blood, and that's how the clots of the Bronze Saints are able to be reborn. After he remembers this, he remembers that he must not fail in his determination for the will that the Gold Saints have entrusted to them. We jump then to Shun, who continues to advance. Well, and then he starts to reminiscence about all the people that have perished in the fight up until now and the battles that he's had, and then we begin to hear a melody that introduces the next god warrior, who is Mime of Benesna. I I can never pronounce his name correctly. Mime of Benetsnash.
It is Snitch, yes.
Yes, it's tricky to
Oh.
pronounce.
Yeah, no, you gotta again. You're talking to a guy who has to tell like has to say like Nibelheim, so it's like
Yeah,
it,
Mime of Benetsnash, who is a musical, god warrior
mhm.
carrying what looks to be an harp, and he very coolly states to Andromeda that he will not be able to continue and his endeavors will fail. Then Shun begins to fight with Mime, who clearly is very powerful as he does not even need to move from his place in order to defend against himself and then attack Shun. Shun is then having difficulty fighting with Mime, but decides to carry on with the fight. Despite the difficulty of the fight itself, and Mime convincing Shun of like all the pointlessness of the fight that he's enduring,
Mhm.
Shun having a bit of a mental breakdown regarding this. He then hears the voice of Ikki who encourages him to continue on fighting, and the episode ends with both of them about to engage once again in battle.
Um. Okay. Um. Again, this goes back to the whole issue with Saint Seiya, where I feel that when it comes to these fill arcs, they kind of overbloat things, and I felt like they kind of overbloated themselves with way too much backstory and too much like flashbacks and stuff like that. I will say I do appreciate the fact that they actually did some new animation for this flashback. So props to them for at least putting some effort and actually giving us something completely new as opposed to something recycled and stuff like that. So far this fight's really interesting. I like the fact that with Mime like we learn later about one of his something he does, and I like the fact that they play into the Andromeda chain and how can't sense he can't sense it he can't sense he can't the Andromeda chains cannot sense Mime, and something that they find out later about why, because at the time I guess I can say it at the beginning they're realizing like he said that usually the Andromeda chains react to evil, and they sense no evil in him, and that's pretty much where we that's pretty much where the that's pretty much where that's a really cool gimmick with the character. It's like he finds a way to disguise it. Also, too, it's like it's interesting to see the fight that where the character that's going at such a fast going so fast that he can't keep up with him, and it's like it's interesting to see that stuff. But Jackie, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I was always confused about the whole thing with why the drum of the chain couldn't sense memes. It's just overall weird. What else did we have? I'm like, oh, stupid Seiya. Why did he fall off the cliff? I mean, bad. Just like, randomly bad and awful. And then he's just staring up and remembering how they fixed the claws. But okay, I guess we got a kind of mostly valid explanation for how they fixed the claws in the anime, even though I'm kind of questioning the whole thing about the Phoenix claws being able to fix itself. There, I said it.
I will. I think the last episode, like the last episode of the Sanctuary arc that we recorded, I think Benjas kind of explained it off like in the manga wise. So it's like that. If we take the manga explanation, I'm perfectly fine with it. But go on.
No, I'm listening to you.
I was gonna make the joke of. Well, the thing about Seiya and falling down is that Seiya I don't know why he has this grudge against gravity, and gravity keeps on winning. The poor boy falls head first anytime that gravity decides to win. So yeah, of course, he loses to gravity like that.
You know what came to my mind when you said that?
What?
Have you seen that Simpsons meme, the one where the police officer says to Homer, like, "You don't learn, do you?"
Oh God!
Instead of a police officer, it's gravity, and instead of Homer, it's Seiya.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry if I mostly complain about it. just really have issues with this.
No, it's okay.
No,
We're just
that's what-
precisely point out those points that annoy us from or that we like about the episode.
I mean, I was just shooting. Why is he having all this hesitation? So, I mean, I kind of felt like by the time he was just so decided when he finally battled Aphrodite, he was gonna go all out, and now he's having second thoughts again. I mean, maybe his personality is like that, but he's just hesitating so much. I just feel they overdid it. in this
Yeah,
episode.
that's another thing I realized. It's like he's uncharacteristically like wondering things, but like he kind of already found his webbles before that. So it's like,
Mhm.
and it's like I guess because like they're fighting against a threat that's a little more powerful that he has a little bit of hesitation, or that or he also overheard Thor and it's like, oh shit, like I'm actually fighting against guys that actually have like like legit like things behind it. It's like there's a lot more regret to that. So there's I think we can notch that kind of like that uncharacteristic like him wondering about this type of stuff to his own sympathy, either because he notices it from the fight or he just suddenly forgot. So I'm more inclined to believe that like he was present during he must have overheard something during the fight with Thor and Seiya that made him go like, shit, these are actually some real people, aren't they?
Yeah. What else? Shiri's still knocked out. They just
Yeah.
keep showing him knocked out just
Yeah,
because they have to show him.
Yeah, and I find it hilarious. It's like he's in a position where he's in snow. He's been caved in by the snow, and he just has his hand sticking out. Like someone else, like someone just pull him out like Excalibur. Wait a minute, I shouldn't be saying that. But yeah, it's just like I like that they just cut to random shoot of you, just like not dead, but he's just taking a nap in the snow.
he's just tired. He's just sleepy.
Yeah.
Hey, at least he got to take a nap. Nobody else did.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's true.
But Benjas, do you have any thoughts on the episode?
Oh yeah, I actually have quite a few things to say
Go
and
for it.
one rant on it.
Go for it.
Two actually, and in a very 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 funny another dubbing mistake. Anyways, I want to say the last piece of trivia that I mentioned previously. This one is regarding Mime. Did any of you notice that Mime is actually completely identical to Lyra Orpheus from the first movie?
Yes.
Yes. I actually had that in my notes too.
Yeah, it comes as no surprise to me. But I know the answer, but keep going.
Okay, the reason for that is because the obvious answer is his model was reused, which is indeed the case. However, there's a more interesting explanation behind that decision originally, and that has to do with the trivia and the Kosei memo of Takao Koyama. Apparently, originally, Mime was intended to be the resurrected Lyra Orpheus from the first movie. Yeah.
Oh.
He is described as having received the soul of Orpheus, having an identical face and personality. He is the personification of vengeance. That's the way that he described them originally. So it's not just the fact that they just reused the model. It's like he was literally going to be the same character.
That would have been interesting.
If you look at him, how he fights, and you compare with the images of Orpheus from the movie, you can see they have the same poses. They have not just the appearance, they have the same poses, and they both characters are voiced by the same Japanese voice actor, Yuji Mitsuya.
Okay.
Who also happens to be the voice actor in Japanese for Virgo Shaka.
Okay.
And both of them use the exact same attack, the Stringer Requiem.
So I mean,
and the infamous Mime melody that has been dubbed like that by fans, which is erroneously done so. It actually comes from a melody done for the soundtrack of the original movie, which is called Andromeda Shun, That Fight, from the Saint Seiya OST Volume 4.
Okay. So it's on there. Okay. That's interesting.
That makes me wondering if maybe I don't know, I guess they could reuse the model, but remember that Kurumada, I understand, was the most involved with the first movie. So I wonder if they changed some plans from there to the Orpheus, the Orphe that we actually have later in.
That's the one I remember hearing. That's like that that Kurumada really liked that design so much that he was trying to find a way to like put it into the series. He finally got the opportunity to put the series like much later with Orphe.
Yeah, Kurumada does that. Like whenever he gave ideas for the anime, whenever he saw the opportunity to reuse them or reintroduce them in his manga, he would do so, but he would do it on his terms. For example, even though the cloth of Sagitta of the arrow, it's the exact same for both the animated the Maya of Sagitta, the character in the movie. He used the same cloth and he used the same constellation, but he created an entirely different character for his story. So he tends to do that. It's the same with Orfe. He originally draw the cloth and the character of Orpheus for the first movie, but he reused the design and just changed a few details here and there and recreated the character into Orfe later down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess he really likes to, if he can, try to rescue his own designs and put them into his manga, or as we found out, with that first movie, which was kind of like sort of the base for Santa's show. And you can see a lot of the elements from that movie they do show up in Santa's show. So that's why I was wondering if that's just something that Kurumada did fairly often. So I guess the answer is yes, he definitely tries if he can.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, whenever.
Go on.
No, you'll go first.
I was gonna say it wouldn't surprise me because I think he's done this before with other series as well. I think he did a lot. I think a lot of the stuff, like he had a lot of concept for stuff for. I think a lot of stuff that was going to be used for Silent Night show ended up going to Beat X, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
He probably did that, considering that it only the series got canceled way too quickly. So I'm not surprised that many of the designs or concepts he could have had for that ended up being used in BDX.
Yeah,
probably.
So it's like it's not unheard of for him to be like that.
Yeah. But the interesting fact is how the anime, the people making the anime actually intended to use Orpheus in this regard, like, because that would create a whole clusterfuck of that. The anime itself is already kind of like a clusterfuck on itself regarding canon and canonicity. Can you imagine what a nightmare it would have been to try to piece everything together if the first movie was actually canon to the anime?
Oh my god!
Oh my god! No.
Yeah, it would have been a clusterfuck.
It also would have been a nightmare because it's like, okay, not only do you have the same guy with a harp, but you also got the same guy who throws arrows as well, that shoots arrows. So it's like, how are you gonna explain that as well?
Yeah, well, technically speaking, they were like ancient saints that died, but still, like it's more trouble than it is worth, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and I think they probably realized that because they would have probably wanted like, nah, this is just gonna be too difficult to try to.
Well, yeah. If you ask me, all those movies are clusterfucks.
They're good.
One way or another.
I mean,
they're bad. They had their good moments too, but still.
All right.
Just.
Okay.
Gone.
Anyways, that's for the piece of trivia regarding Mime, because I think like it's very interesting, specifically that about him, because he's probably like the most left field out of all of them when it comes to his conception. Like he was gonna be basically be a saint. Just so I can post it. I love it.
Hey, was he going?
Anyways, sorry. Okay, so that was regarding the trivia. The episode itself, I liked it for the most part, but I do have two problems with it. One, it comes with the whole how the flashback is pushed onto Seiya of
yes.
Because I also agree with Jackie, the way that he falls is incredibly fucking stupid. Okay, I understand the logic of what they were trying to do. Due to the damage that he suffered because of Thor, that, okay, they do show you how he was basically a punching bag, particularly in his stomach. Any person would probably have that happen to them.
Yeah.
That was quite a lot of damage. The problem is that at this stage, Seiya should be used to being a punching bag, and he has not done any of those types of mistakes to that degree previously. So it's very out of left field, and it feels incredibly forced how he literally stumbles off like a drunkard onto the abyss.
Again,
so that's the execution was very dumb. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say again. This goes back to my argument that it's Seiya versus gravity, and gravity just keeps on winning.
Yeah,
but
anyway, then we have the flashback, which the flashback was fine. Except for the flashback was fine. Like you can clearly see that they're still kind of, well, they should theoretically be hospitalized, but they're just kind of like "Ugh," from the Sactuary arc. And you see all the Gold Saints revive all the clots, including Iki, which is consistent with what they have shown in the anime. But here's my problem with that particular scene. The way that it okay, it's mostly faithful to how that happens in the manga, because that scene actually happens in the manga as well, due to different circumstances, but it also is shown in the manga, and I think it's Seiya the one as well that remembers how that happens. But here, there are two problems with that scene. One very, very interesting but inconsequential, and another one that is very, 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 very consequential, but they didn't know that at the time. Here's the thing, like the Shaka revives Iki's cloth. He should not, in the first place, he should not be doing that. When they revive the cloths in the manga, they only revive the cloths of Seiya, Shun, Iki, and Hyoga because Iki was super dead.
Yeah.
Like Saga super killed him, and his cloth is the only one that can actually evolve without the need of without that revolves around him being able to increase his Cosmo, not so much around somebody else reviving his cloth for him. So that never happened. And another fact, that because Shaka is made to revive Iki's cloth in the anime, and they put Aldebaran to revive Shun's cloth, the one that did that in the manga is actually Shaka. And okay, fair enough. At the time when they made the anime, and back then in 1988 or 87 or whatever year it was, I don't remember, 88 I think. Okay, that was completely inconsequential. Who revived whose cloth, right?
Oh my god! Yeah,
It turns out that Shaka reviving Shun's cloth is gonna be a very important plot point in Next Dimension.
Well, not just that. It's like we kind of already saw some things if you like look at those Funko Pops. So surprise!
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow! I didn't even thought about that.
Yes, no, and it goes even beyond that. It's not just because of the Funko Pop thing. It actually it has to do with that, but it goes beyond that. But that would be a huge spoiler that I'm not gonna say. All I can say is that they shot themselves in the foot like if you have no idea. But to their credit, they could not have known that Kurumada would fucking troll them decades down the line. So
he played the long game with the staff. He's like, ha
yeah.
I'm gonna render everything they did useless. No,
Yeah.
How old is this series now? I mean, by now we should. I mean, we just got recently trolled by him.
Well, yeah, true. But
only that's why it's taking so long to get that next submission anime.
Mm.
But is there any other thoughts?
Yes,
No.
sorry. After that, okay, that's my complaint regarding that point. After that, well, Seiya the thing with Shun is that I think that it also feels that it came too out of left field. It's not uncharacteristic for him to question himself. It's not uncharacteristic for him to lament having to fight people. Like that's part of his character. But I think that Jackie put it best. Like I think it was taken too far. And that's and the problem is that it's not so obvious right now, but that's gonna become a problem like in this arc regarding Shun, and it goes with the thing that I've been complaining about for the longest time now, how Toei does not treat Shun with the respect he deserves, because they always made him look in a worse light than what he actually is.
He had like a meltdown. I mean, you said everything. So yes, that is his character, but going to the point of a meltdown, that's not Shun.
Again,
yeah, exactly. Like it's in character for him to lament having done bad things, but it's not in his character to break down and weep over doing that. And it's been shown that up to this point that he has the conviction, and as you put it before, the cojones to do what needs to be done. Like it feels so forced. It's Toei kicking Shun down once again. The only thing that I do want to say is that at the very least, for a change, he actually does put up a fight, even though that's gonna become inconsequential later down the line. But that's for the next episode.
Yeah. So, is there any other thoughts, Mekas, Jackie?
No, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
we might as well.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So after that episode finishes and continuing the fight with Mime, Shun continues to struggle fighting against him. And when it seems that he finally starts to have like a bit of a middle ground with him, it's still very clear that Mime is very, very powerful, and he's much more powerful than what Shun is. So Shun, after a prolonged fight, Shun decides that he's going to give it his all, and he starts to take off his cloth in order to use his maximum attack. He uses his maximum cosmos, which is the nebulous storm, to try to defeat Mime once and for all. I do have to point out something beforehand. Throughout this entire fight, Shun has noticed, and as you mentioned as well, that Mime has somewhat of a tragic air to him, like a sadness that Shun cannot describe, but he knows that something is off about Mime, and that and Shun realizes that he probably himself is also like he does also want to fight in a similar manner to him. However, Mime denies this, and Mime takes advantage of Shun's what he calls his weakness by not being able to be committed to the fight to properly determine to finish off his enemy. After that, when Shun starts to attack Mime with the Nebula Storm, it seems that he has been able to finally win against him, but it is later revealed sadly that Mime was completely unscathed by his attack and starts his final punishment, his final attack on Shun, who is saved just in the nick of time by a certain hot chicken that arrives in the nick of time. Iki.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends where with the setup for a fight between Iki and Mime.
Jackie, you go first.
I'll go first. I forgot to mention one thing in the last episode. There just seems to be some really weird like animation scenes. Like especially when they were reviving the claws. I just put the link, but like Moo looks really weird. Like compared to the rest of the episode, this looks really like dorky. Like they didn't put enough effort.
Like they didn't get the B team. They got like the C team to do this animation.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier. It was like, but oh, okay. I didn't get to screenshot this in the whole recent brother lab too, is because I noticed that memes also has the one shot he has like really wide shoulders too, and Shun has like ridiculously long curved legs.
Yeah,
there's like a lot of weird like postings and stuff. So I'm not sure what was going on with this episode, or if this is like indeed by the C team, because I noticed too that when there's a sequence of Athena still praying, so the whatever glaciers, the icebergs don't melt. They really recycle a lot of the animation with the icebergs crashing into each other and sinking down. They just keep repeating the same thing over and over. It's like, I don't know. They just really were trying to cut corners somewhere.
yeah.
I don't.
But I also think too a lot like they put in this much they put in so much effort like into doing a lot more of the animation with this episode and the last episode. I'm pretty sure it's like you gotta cut some corners. So, but I'm pretty sure, like I said, like I think those animation things are a stylistic choice. I believe that. I believe that's all. Like I believe that's all from because I've noticed they've done this multiple times in like not just the series but also in the movies as well, where they do like where there'll be some shots where maybe they draw Shun a little bit more taller. He's got like 8 foot tall. He's got like 15 legs for he's got 15 heads for legs. I've seen, and it's like I think it's a stylistic choice from that team. So either one of the animators is like really into doing that kind of thing, or they just slipped it up and they just let that go. But like I said, it's not an isolated incident. I've seen that animation so many times, and actually, here's Ramses' hot take on this one. I actually really like that. That's a really cool stylistic choice. And when we get to the third movie, they do that a lot, and I really that's when like there's some shots in that movie that just look so great because of that. But is there anything else?
No, I just had the notes, and to me, it was just again like the recycled animation during Athena's sequence. Like I feel like they just keep using the same scene for her over and over and over. I don't know, but I know she's praying there. I know it probably doesn't look that much different, but I think I would have liked to have seen, even as a repeated sequence, at least they show either more of the glacier she's melting. It's just for, I don't know, give me something slightly different to look at. I really wasn't too invested in this episode. I'm sorry.
Benjas, you have any thoughts on this episode?
Well, basically on this one, I think it's more of a follow up to my previous the way that I was feeling about the previous one, because in the previous one, at the very least, the thing that came to my mind, because I already know how Toei treats Shun, I already know how this arc treats Shun, but the thing that I didn't remember is that because the way that they usually handle Shun, and this is the way that they handle him mostly in the movies, is that he never puts up a fight and he tends up to be completely useless most of the time. Actually, talking about the Mime and Orpheus comparison in the first movie, he literally doesn't do anything. He was utterly and completely useless in that movie by design. So seeing him actually put up a fight, even though he basically doesn't do anything to Mime, at the very least he's trying. So that's that's not as infuriating as some of the other times that Toei has treated. Some of the other ways Toei has treated him badly. But the thing that pisses me off is that when it comes to the Nebulous Storm, that attack is supposed to be so powerful that a bronze saint was able to completely kill off a gold saint. Aphrodite was not able to escape that attack. He didn't stand a chance against that. And the fact that they very cheaply simply used he used it, but he didn't do shit to Mime. That actually pisses me off quite a bit.
I was about to say one of the things that stood out in my notes is that first of all, it's like he suddenly remembered he can do this, and second of all, you're fucking stupid for taking off your cloth, and third, now that you're doing this, holy shit, man, how were you holding back? No, or you can't tap into that sense anymore.
That's the thing. Like theoretically, it would make sense if he was holding back, but in the context of how it's being shown, is like he's not gonna hold back. Like he's actually gonna give it his all, which is what he does when he finally unleashes the Nebulous Storm. So for him to just use it like willy nilly and worst of all, not have any fucking result, that's kind of like.
And like I said, it's like I guess for me, like I said, like the part that got to me was like, okay, cool. You suddenly remembered this. That's cool. Like you had to have a few minutes to remember it, but it's kind of part of the course at this point for the series, especially for the anime.
Mm.
But at the same time, too, it's like one, it didn't work, and two, like you had to take off your cloth for this. When you could have used it for the fight. You idiots.
Well, it happens a lot with Asgard. I mean, going back to Shoga, he got it together, but he's still gonna make me mad. It just happens with this, and to all of it. It's all of them. Okay, maybe except Dicky, but yeah.
But is there any other thoughts? Because I think I realized that a lot of this. I think we can just move on to the next episode. We can safely say that. So
yeah.
So I think that's our final episode of our discussion of this episode.
Yeah. Okay. So episode 85 begins right where episode 84 left off. After Shun is unable to defeat Mime, Iki comes to his aid, and then he starts to fight against him. At first struggling, not to the same degree that Shun was, but still struggling with being able to put up a fight against Mime. However, they start to they kind of become somewhat balanced in terms of power. But something that I forgot to mention previously is that Mime here seems to not only have physical abilities with his string requiem, but he also seems to have illusion abilities. So Iki and Mime start somewhat of an illusion fight. Of which Mime seems to be kind of like on the edge at the beginning, but then it is later revealed that Iki's attacks serve him as well, because he's able to see into Mime's past, and that's when we get his background and his backstory, and the reason for why Shun was able to detect such sadness coming from him. It turns out that Mime was originally he didn't have any love, according to him, in his youth by his parent. His dad only trained him to become a warrior. And even though he was a very kind-hearted young man, like he talked to animals, like he spent his time in the woods. He seemed to be like very similar to Shun in a way. but his dad like forced him to train to become a warrior. One day, when he was a bit older, he discovered a pendant that contained a picture of two people and a baby. After wondering what that was, then his father comes into the room and explains that that's actually his birth parents and that he's the one that killed them. They were apparently citizens from a neighboring country that declared war on Asgard in the past, and that and they had to be put down in that fight, and that's a squabble. I forgot the name of the. I always forget the name of the guy that raised Mime. What was he called?
You got me.
Folkel. Folkel. Yeah. So this warrior called Folkel, who is the one that raised Mime and that trained him, after revealing this information, Mime is filled with such rage and such hatred that he cannot contain himself, and he ends up killing Folkel, becoming very apathetic and very very apathetic and very cynical about the friendship and about helping others. And something that I forgot to mention in his fight with Shun, that he throughout this entire fight he has tried to tell to Shun that it is very pointless to fight and to help other people because it's irrelevant, it's pointless, and he's gonna get betrayed in the end. This is the reason for why. And after Iki shows him this, then he proceeds to clarify something to Mime, because this is a distorted memory. Turns out that actually Folkel, even though he was indeed the one responsible for killing his birth parents, he did not kill them in cold blood. He was originally going to spare them after he saw that they had a child, but they tried to attack him in the end, and by defending himself, he ended up killing them. In guilt, he adopts Mime, and he does care for him, showing a scene where he actually carries him through a
storm.
snowstorm when he was sick, in order to get him to a doctor, and saved his life. And he also realized that when he attacked him, he was actually crying tears of sadness when he killed him. So he was not the heartless person that Mime always led himself to believe that his father was, but he actually cared for him. And this revelation has Mime have a breakdown after realizing what he has done, and coming and not being able to determine what he wants anymore. And the episode ends with a cliffhanger of the fight going to continue between Iki and Mime.
Jackie, your thoughts?
I actually have made a lot of fun of this episode in a way, but to be honest, I mean, there was just something about when, that Iki. Sometimes I don't know if I hate him or I like him, because he can be such an ass, but at the same time, I feel like he is the one that I think learned from his previous battle. He mentions it, like he's at least right now he doesn't seem to be struggling compared to the others. Like we didn't see so much of it. I didn't fight this before. I've lost power. Nothing like that. Not lost power. How do you say it? Like we saw, like Shun is struggling. Like it makes you feel like he did not go through any previous battles. He's ready to go.
Yeah, he's fresh off whatever he's doing, and he's already like ready to fight. And it's true, he does this will be his first appearance in this. We already saw him at the very first episode, but he was doing jack all. Like, as a matter of fact, he just came just to show him his new cloth, and that's it in that episode. And
true.
And then, here at least he has put up a fight here. Any other thoughts?
Mike?
What else did I? No. Oh, you know what I noticed? I mean, we got another friendship speech. This time it's from Iki.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately becomes a thing in NASCAR a lot. The long friendship speeches. So I'm like, oh gosh, what? And it just seems so contradicting to, like, Iki doesn't seem to be the type that would give you a friendship speech because he's being the lone wolf, but I don't know. It's an interesting episode. I feel like we're seeing the better side of Iki. He's not being an ass, but I don't know if that was done to kind of sort of balance out how so far the other four have struggled so much through all these fights, seeming like they reset back to being newbies, like they have no battle experience. But Iki somehow he's showing that he has that battle experience from 12 Temples. So I don't know what they were. Well, what they were trying to show us with that. But go on.
Benjas, do you have any thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, a couple. Well, first of all, leaving off a little bit on where I left off, like not only is the whole making Shun look like an idiot thing, but it's also the fact that they cemented. Okay, fair enough. In the original manga, it does happen that a couple of times Shun is rescued by Iki, but it is never done in a tasteless way, and it's always done in very limited numbers. I think it was only 3 times in the original manga when he rescued Shun, that are not that many when you could really come to think about it, and were very critical moments where it wasn't just simply like, you were being useless, I came to rescue you. It was more of a dire situation where intervention needed to happen, and then Shun proves himself. When in this particular case, it's not the same. Here it's the typical stereotype that the anime is the one that's culpable and responsible for, of you came to save me, brother. So it's like, fucking hell. Okay, fair enough. So we passing that, the fight between Iki and Mime is kind of annoying to me in the sense of, again, like, how powerful is Mime? Like, seriously, how powerful is he that, first of all, Shun's most powerful attack did nothing to him, and that Iki's having such a difficult time dealing with this guy? Because I understand that they're trying to make the God Warriors look like a menace and look like powerful enemies, and they have to be, but it's so inconsistent with what has been shown up until now that you cannot but be baffled at to question the power levels in this series, which are already kind of difficult for somebody to accept when it comes down to the fact that it's not all just about power. But here it's done in such an extreme way, especially in the Asgard arc, for all of them. As you mentioned, Jackie, like, all of them look like complete morons that they're just starting out, or as if they were completely reset, so just that they could struggle with the God Warriors.
Yeah, I didn't know how to word
frustrating
it, but
to
it's
see.
that. It's the reset, the power, like, it feels like we're back at how, whatever strength they had when they first became bronze. It's like, what the hell?
Which is ironic, because theoretically, even though if it's not by that much, they should be more powerful, because their clots, even though it's more of a protection thing, it is also a symbol of their power as well. That was in the anime. So theoretically, they should be proving themselves in that regard. And here it's more like, it's just saving me from being killed in one shot. It's like, that's frustrating to me. But
Yeah.
and the fight itself with Mime is kind of like, the fight itself is not that entertaining to watch. It's more like the bantering and the, actually, the thing that keeps me interested in the fight, it's more the banter between Iki and Mime, and discovering Mime's past, because I think that he's probably, so far, I've never been a fan of having like overly tragic characters. I think sometimes it's too much emotional manipulation. Like, I know that it's always intended to create emotion on the viewer, and especially to create some empathy for what should be considered a villain. I know that, but sometimes it feels too forced, and I think that Asgard sins on that. But with Mime, I think he's probably the one that I've liked his execution the most. I felt more for Mime than I have for any of the other ones so far. So I probably just have to say that when it comes to, at the very least, his own background, I think I like his the most so far.
Seems more like, I guess it feels more genuine, fleshed out, and why he was holding all that anger. He tried to change in his mind, what really happened. I guess because of the guilt when he knew the truth all along. I have to wonder if maybe they were trying to do sort of the, just my French, like what they did with the fight between Shaka and Nikki, that was more about the mind fucks and really screwing with your mind. Because I feel like all the back and forth between Mime and Shun, he was trying to get into Shun's head. Ultimately, Shun ends up having a breakdown. And I feel that's what the same thing that was happening with Iki, his goals and his friendships. He's trying to get into Mime's head. Mime is trying to get into
Shun's
head.
I mean, to Iki's head.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Iki wins. But so, in that sense, I'm like, if they were trying to do something like how the fight between Shaka and Iki was, I don't know. You're right. It wasn't that entertaining. It's like, however Shaka, he screws with Iki's mind, throws him, into the 6 cells, and it just, all the mind screws, just somehow the format doesn't work with me, man. It's not as entertaining. It just seems like it's dragging on for some reason, and I really don't know where they maybe not necessarily go wrong, but I don't know. It didn't do it for me.
All right.
I get what you mean, but also I think that something else that I did like and I did enjoy about Iki in this case, because you mentioned that they were showing him in a better light or showing like the good in Iki, and I think that actually applies very well here because at the very least it's consistent to his character development in the story. Iki does come to regret being having been evil at one point, having come to hate, and it's touched upon a little bit in the manga afterwards, but especially in that part where he's running back towards the Pope's chamber in the Sanctuary arc, but in the manga. But in the anime, I think they did a very well job of him relating to a character of like, oh, you were also full of hatred and you were also cynical and you also wanted to kill everybody. I was like that too, but I was able to grow up beyond that, and I'm gonna make you see that. That's consistent with Iki's character, and it shows like that good part of him and that growth that he had in the series. So at the very least, that part of the fight with Mime in general was very good to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree. Yeah, I have to agree. I have to agree with Benkas. While the fight is underwhelming so far, like I do have my complaints on that. Like I said earlier, especially with like how Shun just suddenly forgot how to fight all of a sudden. I do appreciate how they handle the stuff with Mime and his backstory, and like how, like, they found a way to make like they found a good balance of like making him like this heartless fighter, but also giving him sympathy as well. And I do feel that that's always been like that's always been like kind of a difficulty with this arc. And we saw like we as much as we make fun of as much as we make fun of Hagen and stuff like that, it's because like it felt kind of I kind of felt like it was underbaked. Like it felt like they kind of like half baked an idea and they just didn't, and they had to like change it halfway. Here it seems like they had the idea of something, and now knowing what you said earlier about that this was going to be another character that was going to be resurrected from another character, I'm seeing the seeds of that with this characterization. Now that I see that, I can understand a little bit more what the thought process with the character was, as pertaining to like what they were trying to do with the character with Mime as a character. Like they had the idea of making like one character that was gonna be another character, but like I'm pretty sure that was why Iki came into this fight. So the whole entire purpose of Shun being there was just to get Iki there, which is now in contrast, like, oh my god, that's even worse now.
Yeah, like this whole fight really does not do Shun justice.
But huge but, like my big old butt. I will say, like I said, like the whole thing about like giving him the whole thing with Mime's backstory was very interesting. I think like out of all the God Warriors that we had so far, his was I think one of the best backstories that they had, and it is well executed for this fight. All the stuff with Shun withstanding.
Yeah, I agree.
The bottom line, we shall ignore that this happened to Shun. Let's just pretend it doesn't.
Yeah,
poor guy.
Mixed feelings all around. But overall, my thoughts on these group of episodes is that it was a better time with these episodes than the last couple of episodes. There's still huge problems, but you can tell now that they kind of they're A, on their groove, and B, you can start seeing a little bit more, especially with after hearing what Benkas had to say about it from behind the scenes. I can see now the seeds of everything coming together as they intended it to be if they would have went with a plan. But obviously plans change, and and then the result ends up being that they have to like do that. That they have to do some half baked things just to get things done. But so like I said, like there's some things that work, there's some things that don't work. But I think for overall, all these group episodes are starting to get a little bit better on a lot of it.
True, like I guess they must have figured out more the direction they wanted to go to. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
Either way, he gets us stuff to talk about, right? That's really all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not all bad. but because there's some really good in it, but like you have to dig deep for the good. But whatever good is there is actually worth finding, in my opinion. Alrighty then, guys. Any final thoughts period before we head out?
Nope.
No.
No, I think just to agree with the point that you did, definitely it feels better. This batch felt better than the previous. The previous one definitely was a drag. This one actually, I was actually entertained watching it. I think this is the point where the Asgard arc, even though it has problems, it has very visible problems. Uh, at the very least, it starts to feel more consistent and starts to feel better executed overall, even despite of its problems.
I agree. Alrighty then. Let's head out then. Let's head out for this episode. Jackie, do you have anything you would like to promote?
Um, no, not at this time. I'm working on setting up my other socials. Just be on the lookout for, we'll be sharing more information about what's to come with the concert.
All right, sounds good. Because you have anything you would like to promote?
Uh, Not for the immediate moment. I have been a little bit away of social media in general. For
Good.
that, I have, in a way, I apologize because I have stuff that I wanted to do that I haven't been doing. But I've also been doing like other stuff both for my personal life and of my interest outside of Sensei as well. But I do have some things that I do want to return to. I do have plans to continue drawing. I do have plans. I do have other plans that are related to Sensei as well, and I am going to probably be more active. Maybe not so much on Twitter, but yeah, on in my Instagram, I definitely am gonna work more on making that more often, like posting more there. I'm not gonna give any dates just to not to shoot myself in the foot, but I do intend to return to it. I hope sometime soon. I do believe that as soon as September starts, once the concert starts going on, probably gonna be more active there. So please check out. Well, please be on the lookout. I'll probably be posting stuff on my social media when that time comes.
Um,
Yeah.
as for me, I got a lot of things to promote. Okay, so first and foremost, we have a new episode of the Saturday Morning Squadron. We had General Techno on the show. General Techno is a longtime community member of the Transformers fandom, and he's a really cool dude. Really do appreciate that. Really do appreciate him stopping by and talking to us about his adventures at TFCon in Canada. Obviously, of course, if you're watching this stream, if you're watching this, you must be watching this either on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't followed us on YouTube, give us a subscribe. And if you're also watching us on Twitch, give us a follow. I stream not only do I stream this, but I stream other stuff as well. I do model kit streams. I just recently built the Sun Wukong Impulse Gundam, which is really good. I'll post pictures of that later on. And I already picked out my next project that I'm going to be working on. And sometimes you might find some gaming here and there as well. So that be on the lookout for that. You can find the show at our website at www.scosmocast.com. Again, the address is scosmocast.com. And you can find us pretty much like everywhere on socials. We just opened up a Bluesky, which thankfully I was able, since it's so early, we were actually able to get the Cosmocast name. So yay. Um, Other than that, that's about it. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Thanks for listening, everybody. Really do appreciate it. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks. With that said, guys, keep burning that cosmos. I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for
See you
listening.
next time.
Alrighty. Um, stop recording the bots.